What's your favorite Gen 2 Pokemon? Let me know in the comments. Pokemon fact number 152. Did you know that Chikorita's scent is extremely calming? That's right, besides using its leaf to find nice, warm, humid places to bathe in the sun, in battle, Chikorita will wave its leaf around to keep enemies at bay, wafting around a sweet fragrance. The scent will calm battling Pokemon and creates a cozy, friendly atmosphere. Also, I've posted the full hour and 17-minute Gen 1 Pokemon fact compilation on my RegiRobShot channel. If you want to catch up for Generation 2, you might want to check it out. Rewatching my first facts was interesting. My last few TikToks have gotten quite a few views. And then there's Chikorita. Pokemon fact number 153. Did you know that Bayleaf can make people want to fight? Bayleaf's aroma is said to be spicy. The scent can also act as a stimulant, and anyone who smells it becomes energetic. Oh, and in Pokemon Gold, we're just straight out told it makes you want to fight. Bayleaf just sounds like it's a methamphetamine Pokemon. As always, thank you to my patrons. You really help keep things running around here, as well as this concentrated Bayleaf scent. Just in case people don't get the joke, that's just beard oil. What I've wanted for years is a Pokemon version of Dungeons and Dragons. Pokemon fact number 154. Did you know that Meganium can bring things back from the dead? We learn in a few of its Pokedex entries that the fragrance from Meganium's petals calms aggressive emotions, and even just standing next to it will make you feel completely refreshed. That's pretty impressive as it is, but it turns out that just Meganium's breath has the power to bring dead plants and flowers back to life. So now all I can think is whether or not that applies to other grass Pokemon. Cyndaquil without its flames is a lot like me without my clothes on. Disappointing and a little sad. Pokemon fact number 155. Did you know that Cyndaquil can become extremely vulnerable? Cyndaquil's main form of defense are the flames that sprout from its back. These flames get more intense when it's angered, startled, or even just defensive. But unfortunately, if it ever gets tired, then the flames will start to sputter and apparently suffers from incomplete combustion. Look, I hear it's very common and it happens all the time. Given its lack of other means of defense and its very timid nature, a tired Cyndaquil would likely end up as very easy prey. Me have no more funnies, so I'm opening a pack of cards. Well, if it isn't Goku. Pokemon fact number 156. Did you know that Quilava likes to turn its back on predators? Ooh, daddy. Quilava prefers turning its back to intimidate things by demonstrating how ferociously its fire blazes. The entry in Legends Arceus even says, if a Quilava turns its back to you, watch out, because that usually means it's about to attack. Another odd aspect of Quilava is that not only is its fur non-flammable, but it's stated to be capable of withstanding any fire attack. And given the temperatures that some Pokemon are capable of producing, that's pretty impressive. Look, I might get hate for this, but I prefer Hisuian Typhlosion. Pokemon fact number 157. Did you know that Typhlosion gets so hot you can't even see it properly? Most of Typhlosion's Pokedex entries mention that in battle it creates heat shimmers to hide itself. You know, heat shimmers, heat hazes, the weird wiggly lines that happen in the air when it gets hot. So big whoop, you can't see it properly. Where's the danger? Well, turns out just by rubbing its fur together, it can create massive fiery explosions. I dropped my phone and completely ruined the screen. That's it. That's the joke. The joke is my misery. Pokemon fact number 158. Did you know that Totodile's jaws are capable of crushing anything? We're told this in Pokemon Gold, that its jaws are so well developed that it can crush pretty much anything. That would mean diamonds, concrete, titanium. More concerning is the fact that because Totodile is extremely snappy and eager to bite practically anything that moves, even its own trainer has to be extremely careful. Hey, nothing like a 10-year-old losing their hand to their newly cut Totodile. I'm telling you, it's a missed opportunity by Nintendo that they haven't released Croconaw Crocs. Pokemon fact number 159. Did you know that Croconaw's teeth make it impossible to escape? Once a Croconaw's jaws have a hold of you, you'll quickly figure out that each one of its 48 teeth point backwards. Basically, they make it so no matter how much you struggle, you'll never be able to break free. And the Pokedex entry in Alpha Sapphire describes it even more brutally. Forked back like barbed fish hooks, Croconaw's teeth become impossible to remove once they've sunk in. Oh, and don't worry, if Croconaw loses some of its teeth, they'll just quickly regrow. Unfortunately, this fact's gonna have to get a little saucy. Pokemon fact number 160. Did you know that Feraligatr had a very, interesting look in Gen 3? The look in question is Feraligatr's back sprite, which looks like he's packing some serious hams. Yeah, for whatever reason, Feraligatr's spine ridges were drawn like they were succulent bum cheeks. I mean, look, here's its Gen 3 and Gen 5 back sprites side by side. We've got the expected reptilian spine ridges and the Dynamax dumpy. Honestly, I'm not sure how they didn't catch this when they were making the game, but it makes me genuinely concerned. Pokemon are like my life goals. Unattainable fiction. Pokemon fact number 161. Did you know that Sentret can suffer from extreme separation anxiety? So Sentret are normally pack Pokemon. They take turns looking out for danger. While the other Sentrets sleep, one will stay awake and so on. Honestly, they're much more like meerkats than ferrets. So anyway, if a Sentret is separated from its pack, it will become incapable of sleeping due to fear. So good luck catching a Sentret and having it become an insomniac for the foreseeable future. 50,000 followers. That is insane. What'll happen next? 100,000? Well, algorithm, what'll happen next? Pokemon fact number 162. Did you know that Furret looks adorable, but it also loves bullying Rattata? At first, it seems like Furret just hunts Rattata for food, as it's said to be surprisingly quick at catching them despite its short legs. But then we turn to Soul Silver, where we learn that yes, Furret is extremely fast, but rather than just catching them, it enjoys chasing Rattata. So yeah, it's cute and adorable, but it's also a sick murderer that enjoys toying with its prey. Oh, and it's also 6 feet long. Knock knock. Who's there? Owls. Owls who? Yes, they do. Pokemon fact number 163. Did you know that Hoot Hoot was thought to be a messenger of the gods? What you'll need to know first is that Hoot Hoot starts hooting at the same time every day. They can do this because of a special organ in their body that keeps track of the Earth's rotation. Because of this, in ancient times, people used Hoot Hoots instead of clocks. In fact, Ultra Moon tells us that people cherished Hoot Hoot and considered them divine messengers sent to tell the time. Good to know we can add Hoot Hoot Supplier to Dialga's list of powers. Let me know in the comments if you're Team Scarlet or Team Violet. Let's get a healthy feud going. Pokemon fact number 164. Did you know that Noctowl was the first ever shiny Pokemon to be shown in the anime? You might be thinking, yeah, whatever, who cares about a differently colored owl? Well, I will remind you that this was during Gen 2. And in the games at least, the shiny rates at the time were 1 shiny Pokemon in every 8,192 encounters. So who caught this extremely rare Pokemon? Well, who else but the boy eternally cursed to be a 10-year-old? Ash Ketchum. Here's a normal Noctowl, and here's Ash's Noctowl. Nowadays, you're twice as likely to get a shiny Pokemon. Only a mere 1 in 4,096 chance. You know, I thought Ladybug was adorable before I looked into its facts. Pokemon fact number 165. Did you know that Ladybug communicates by squirting fluids out of its legs? Yep, Ladybug gets across its emotions by changing the scent of the fluid that leaks out of its legs. Ladybug also hate the cold, so large groups of them will huddle together in the winter to stay warm. So just a big old pile of Ladybug squirting their leg juices on each other, letting the rest know how comfortable they are. Yep. Look, I'm just gonna say it. I hate Ledian's design so much. Pokemon fact number 166. Did you know that Ledian is powered by the stars? There seems to be some relationship between Ledian's energy and the amount of stars in the sky. Areas with clean air and clear skies will be home to countless Ledian. If there's a lot of stars visible, it will make the patterns on its back grow bigger. So you might think that a 4-armed, celestially solar-powered creature would be pretty powerful. Well, Pokemon Moon makes sure to tell us that its punches are piddly. So it aims to win through quantity of strikes over quality. If Pokemon were real, I just wouldn't be able to relax. How could I with nearly 2-foot-tall spiders on the loose? Pokemon fact number 167. Did you know that Spinarak has extremely useful webs? Much like real-life spiders, Spinarak webs are really durable. In fact, fishermen in the Pokemon world weave the webs into fishing nets. Keep in mind the size and power of most fish Pokemon. We're also told that Spinarak webs are so strong you can just toss rocks into them without them breaking. Which is pretty concerning, and I don't like spiders as it is. Never mind one that's the size and weight of a small dog. What could you realistically do if an Ariados was in your house? I don't think it's your house anymore. Pokemon fact number 168. Did you know that Ariados is a very impressive hunter? You might think that Ariados sits in a web all day and lets its prey carelessly trap itself. Well, turns out it's actually a lot more active. Ariados becomes very aggressive at night, hunting down prey by spraying webs from its mouth. Once it catches something, it then lets its prey go. That is, after it attaches a string of silk to the poor creature that Ariados later uses to track it all the way back to its Pokemon friends. Why would I come up with a joke if the fact number can do it for me? Pokemon fact number 169. Did you know that Crobat is more terrifying than you'd think? So Crobat's kind of known for its ability to fly without stopping, swapping which sets of wings it uses so it never gets tired. And you know, this would be fine by itself. But in Pokemon Ultra Moon, we're told that if Crobat doesn't feast on blood for even just a short while, it becomes weak and is unable to fly. So the fact this Pokemon's known to fly constantly without stopping means it's also constantly feasting on the blood of humans in Pokemon, which Crobat can fully drain in a heartbeat. We've got a new Pokemon trailer. Which do you prefer, Armarouge or Ceruledge? Pokemon fact number 170. Did you know that Chinchou flash each other while having turf wars? Chinchou is essentially an anglerfish that lives deep in the ocean, beyond the reach of sunlight. So flashing the lights on its antenna are the only form of communication it has with other Chinchou. And they do flash each other, especially when claiming their respective turf. Chinchou is also known to lure in prey with its antenna lights, and when they get close enough, it shocks them into paralysis. I've also made a full video on the trailer that released today. Maybe you want to pop over, give it a watch. I don't judge. Oh, get ready for this one. Pokemon fact number 171. Did you know that Lantern's Pokedex entry causes a bit of a problem? People might have heard of this one before, that one of Lantern's Pokedex entries causes some confusion, which is, the light it emits is so bright that it can illuminate the sea's surface from a depth of over 3 miles. So without going too far into the physics, that's basically impossible in the real world given how water absorbs light. Lantern would be vaporizing the water with a death ray way before it gets to lighting the surface of the sea levels of energy. So what's the explanation for this entry? Well, the best explanation I can think of is one of two things, and neither of them are kids make up the Pokedex. Explanation 1. The same way we have ghost and psychic Pokemon, it's just magical light. Or explanation 2, the fact Lantern's part water type, it just makes a tunnel through the water for the light to go up to the surface, which I suppose is also magic. You know, the only reason I dislike Pichu is because it meant that Raichu wasn't gonna get an evolution. Pokemon fact number 172. Did you know that Pichu has the electrical version of a baby's bladder? Pretty much every one of Pichu's Pokedex entries talks about the fact it can't hold its electric bladder. It discharges electricity unintentionally, its cheeks are too small to store the electricity, it shocks itself. These problems can make Pichu pretty hard to raise, as you'll be accidentally electrocuted by it several times. And when it does release its electricity, it starts crying because it gets scared. You know, at some stage we deserve a payoff for all the space-based mysteries there are in Pokemon. Pokemon fact number 173. Did you know that Cleffa is yet another Pokemon with a mysterious link to space? So besides the fact that its silhouette makes it look like a star, Cleffa has a borderline obsession with meteors and shooting stars. Cleffa sightings will increase on nights with meteor showers, where they come together to dance in a circle. They're also often seen in areas that have impact craters. The Pokedex is also sure to mention that Cleffa loves the Pokemon Minior. It's literally a meteor Pokemon. Hey, just so everyone knows, Igglybuff can learn Flamethrower. Pokemon fact number 174. Did you know that Igglybuff is obsessed with training its singing voice? Left to its own devices, Igglybuff will constantly try to improve its singing, but that can lead to it damaging its vocal cords because they're not fully developed yet. So trainers are encouraged to make Igglybuff take regular breaks. And even wild Igglybuff go through the effort of making their way to rivers and gargling fresh water to help their throats. Besides the singing, their bodies are also extremely bouncy. If it does start bouncing, it'll be impossible for it to stop itself. Oh, and for some reason its sweat smells sweet. Comment below whether you're Team Sprigatito, Team Fuecoco, or Team Quaxley. This will also let me know if my audience is full of furries. Pokemon fact number 175. Did you know that Togepi can share happiness? When a Togepi is treated kindly and it's surrounded by positive emotions of compassion and, yeah, that says pleasure, It'll store up those feelings inside of its shell, where it can then choose to share those feelings with people and Pokemon, presumably forcing them to become happy. Funnily enough, Togepi might be based on a mythological Korean goblin called a Dokkaebi. Anyway, Dokkaebi have been known to use their magic to help people who have been kind to them. Yeah, Togepi's a goblin. Before we get started, here's a tip to remember why fairy types are super effective against dragons. In a lot of fairy tales, dragons get murdered. Pokemon fact number 176. Did you know that Togetic doesn't need its wings to fly? So Togetic does flap its wings, but seemingly that's just for show. We learned in Pokemon Silver that it can actually just float in midair without moving its wings, which would suggest that Togetic uses the horrifying power of fairy magic, which, as we all know, has the power to take down dragons, dishonorable things, and martial artists. Look, I know the Nintendo Direct was yesterday, but I just have to share my disappointment. No Metroid news. Pokemon fact number 177. Did you know that Natu seems like a normal bird? Mostly. Natu seems like a normal bird for the most part. You know, it's got the usual, it's young so it can't fly properly. It pecks at shoots on branches, likes pecking at cactus plants. All the normal bird things. Except for the fact it can leap straight to the top of trees, which is pretty impressive, but not too crazy for Pokemon. The most unnerving thing is that we're told it always seems to be staring at something. And if your eyes meet with Natu's, it'll just stare right back at you intently. I need to try something new. Hey everyone, don't follow me on Twitter. Pokemon fact number 178. Did you know that Xatu is said to stand motionless all day because it's terrified? Xatu is known to be able to see the future by looking into the sun. People believe that it doesn't move out of fear of the terrible things it's foreseen in the future. Ultra Moon tells us a little bit more, that while Xatu can see the future, it has no desire to change it. So I don't know if it's worse that the terrible future that Xatu sees might still be the best one possible. You know, I've got to give big props to someone. This absolute fact god, Daniel Syed. Thank you for being one hell of a patron. Pokemon fact number 179. Did you know that Mareep's name is an anagram? For anyone who doesn't know, an anagram is a word or phrase made from jumbling up letters of another word. For example, Santa is an anagram of Satan. Anyway, Mareep is actually an anagram of ampere. An ampere, or more normally an amp, is a unit of electrical current. Mareep's name might also be a combination of Mary, as in Mary had a little lamb, and sheep. You guys want to be like Daniel? Become a patron. You know what? Let's turn the comments into a battleground. Which is better, Ploff or Kingler? Pokemon fact number 180. Did you know that Flaffy can generate so much electricity it goes bald? That's right, Flaffy's wool is so good at generating and storing huge amounts of electricity that patches of its wool just get destroyed. The pink areas on Flaffy are actually its weird rubbery skin. These areas are said to be safe to be able to touch, as opposed to its wool, which is not just electrically charged, but it can also be fired at you. What does the algorithm have against Mareep? I mean, look at Flaffy compared to poor old Mareep. Pokemon fact number 181. Did you know that Ampharos can be seen from space? Yes, Ampharos can produce such a strong and intense light, it can be clearly seen from outer space itself. Which would definitely explain why in the Pokemon world it's been used as a light source for lighthouses. The Pokédex even tells us that because of the light it produces, you can always tell where an Ampharos is. Because of this, it will usually keep its light off. I guess there's always a bigger fish. Sheep. Giraffe? I still hate that Blossom wasn't native to Alola. Makes no sense to me. Pokemon fact number 182. Did you know that Blossom's flowers change in quality based on the type of gloom it was? You might be thinking, oh, okay, the more colorful and beautiful the gloom, the more impressive the flowers on a Blossom. Nope. We're told in the Pokédex that it's actually based on how smelly the gloom was. Specifically, the stinkier the better. I'll just remind everyone that glooms are so smelly in general that they can cause people to faint from their smell. From over a mile away. Imagine how bad a shiny Blossom would have had to smell. Hey, remember when people thought before Marill was released that it was an evolution of Pikachu called Pika-Blue? Pokemon fact number 183. Did you know that Marill's tail is the only reason it doesn't drown? While Maryl's fur is water repellent, the whole reason this blue mouse thing doesn't just drown in streams is because its tail is actually filled with oils that are lighter than water. The oils make the tail act like a life preserver. If Maryl wants to go hunting in river rapids, it'll tie its tail around the trunk of trees and will use it to dive into the dangerous water to hunt for food. Little drastic, but they've got to eat somehow. Don't you just hate that feeling when you wake up? Pokemon fact number 184. Did you know that Azumaril's hearing is unbelievably good? So let's say an Azumarill takes a trip down to its local river rapids. Well, not only is it able to hear prey in the water over the sounds of the rapids, but it can even identify through sound alone exactly what Pokemon it is. By the way, compared to most Pokemon, Azumarill is actually really kind. If it finds a drowning Pokemon that isn't prey, it'll create a special air bubble in the water so the poor drowning Pokemon can breathe. So yeah, this fact didn't even turn morbid for once. Also, thank you to my patrons. You keep things running. Sudowoodo, he's finally done it. He can become a real grass type. All thanks to the Terrestrialize feature from the new games. Pokemon fact number 185. Did you know that Sudowoodo is loved by the elderly? Yeah, for some reason in the Pokemon world, old people absolutely adore Sudowoodo. We even learned in Pokemon Ultra Sun that there's an entire magazine dedicated to them, just entirely devoted to Sudowoodo. A big focus of the Sudowoodo community is apparently obsessing over the length and angle of its arms. Each their own, I guess. It's also valued by collectors depending on the size of its pretend leafy green parts. Bigger they are, the more value it has. Hey, tell me about it. Politoed? Oh, no thanks, I'm more of a one toad at a time kind of guy. Pokemon fact number 186. Did you know that Politoed is a feared ruler? Politoed's status as king is apparently decided based on how long and luxurious the hair on its head is. The longer and more luscious the hair, the more Poliwag and Poliwhirl will obey it. In fact, when Politoed roars, they all cower in fear. Speaking of which, the Pokédex tells us that its cries sound like screams, and that they like to gather on moonlit nights to sing in a large chorus. Male Politoed with deep, menacing voices are also more popular with the opposite sex. Looks like Hoppip isn't the only thing that's weak to fire, because Twitch sure was burning down this week. Pokemon fact number 187. Did you know that Hoppip used to have a very different design? Back in the era of the 1997 Space World demo for Pokemon Gold and Silver, we see a very different version of Hoppip. This version of Hoppip has no arms or legs, and looks an awful lot more like a black cat than the Hoppip we ended up with. Speaking of, Hoppip's name in Japanese is Haneko, which ends up working really well for the beta design because Neko translates to root, and it's also a play on the word Neko, meaning cat. It's been nearly 20 years since Pokemon Coliseum came out. It's about time that series gets picked up again, even a remake. Pokemon fact number 188. Did you know that Skiploom gets used as a thermometer? So the Pokédex tells us that Skiploom's flower starts to blossom at 64 degrees Fahrenheit. How much the flower opens depends on the outside temperature. So it was used as a very archaic thermometer. Thinking about it, it might be hard to check how much the flower actually opens, given the fact that Skiploom likes to float up into the sky to soak up as much sunlight as possible. Hey, here's a nice little reminder if you haven't subscribed to me yet. You like these facts? Give a little subscribe, huh? Pokemon fact number 189. Did you know that Jumpluff spreads seed all around the world? Yeah, that's right. Jumpluff is able to utilize the seasonal winds to spread its cotton spores all across the globe. And the Pokédex makes sure to say it's specifically to make more offspring. Not only does Jumpluff spread its seed like this, but it also hitches rides on warm winds to make its way to anywhere it wants in the world. The only time Jumpluff ever descends to the ground while it's drifting around is when it encounters cold air. Let me know in the comments if you're an Aipom fan or if you're a winner, because as everyone knows, you can't be both. Pokemon fact number 190. Did you know that Aipom's real hands are just really clumsy? Over time, Aipom relied more and more on its weird hand tail. So eventually their real hands became nearly useless. Aipom nests in treetops where it uses its tail to pick fruits. But more concerningly, Aipom searches for prey from the tops of trees. I mean, I didn't even know they hunted. But we are told Aipom gets excited and pounces when it spots its favorite food, the Pokemon Bonsweet. New Pokemon revealed. It's Wiglet. This Pokemon isn't a form of Diglett. It's actually an example of the real-world convergent evolution, which is where two separate species will develop similar features despite not being related. Kinda like how most animals developed very similar eyes. Pokemon fact number 191. Did you know that Sunkern is extremely weak? See, Magikarp gets a bit of a bad reputation, and it's usually referred to as the weakest Pokemon, even though for 17 years, Sunkern was actually the Pokemon with the lowest base stats, a piddly 180 base stat total compared to Magikarp's massive 200. But all good things must come to an end. Sunkern's 17-year reign as the weakest Pokemon was finally ended in Generation 7 by the new king, Solo Form Wishy-Washy, boasting a titanic 175 base stat total. If you could pick a plant to turn into a Pokemon, what one would it be? Let me know in the comments. Pokemon fact number 192. Did you know that Sunflora is completely still in the dead of night? And no, this actually isn't anything spooky. Sunflora just can't convert any solar energy without the sun. Even in the daytime, Sunflora is known to rush around in a hectic manner, pursuing the sunlight. So you might be thinking, oh, that's cool. I wonder if the game mechanics reflect that. And they do. Sunflora has the ability Chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the thing that makes plants green, and they use it in photosynthesis. So this ability doubles Sunflora's speed in harsh sunlight, which sounds really impressive, until you realize Sunflora's base speed is 30. Which, when doubled to 60, is still slower than this bag of literal rubbish. I never realized how cool shiny Yanma was. I mean, check that out, huh? Pokemon fact number 193. Did you know that Yanma would cause massive amounts of property damage? Yanma's known for being extremely fast, being able to see 360 degrees, and using these features to quickly and efficiently hunt down its prey. So in real life, it would be pretty cool. But there's another side effect of Yanma's speed, which makes it extremely dangerous. And that's the fact that Yanma flaps its wings so fast, it generates shockwaves, powerful enough to shatter all the windows in the surrounding area. I'm so excited for Paldean Wooper, or Pooper as people have been calling it. Pokemon fact number 194. Did you know that Wooper should have been a poison type all along? So Wooper's new form is a poison ground type, as opposed to normal Wooper who's water ground. But it looks like Wooper's Pokedex entries since 1999 have been telling us it should have been a poison type. Essentially, half of all Wooper's Pokedex entries mention that it covers its skin in a poisonous mucus membrane, and that touching it barehanded will cause shooting pain. This poisonous film also keeps Wooper from becoming dehydrated. If you ask me, that sounds a little bit more like a water poison type. I didn't realize that Quagsire was based on a real animal. A giant salamander. Pokemon fact number 195. Did you know that Quagsire is so great that the Pokedex can't even find any dirt on it? So normally these facts go into some pretty horrific or disturbing things about Pokemon, but every single entry on Quagsire shows us that it's truly deserving of looking this lovable. The entries all mention that Quagsire is just carefree, relaxed, and easygoing. Maybe a bit too easygoing, as apparently it constantly hits its head against the hulls of boats and the riverbed. But Quagsire doesn't seem to notice. Even the way Quagsire hunts is the most passive, non-aggressive way you could think of. It just floats along with its mouth open, and if prey happen to swim in there, you know, what can you do, right? Things happen. Alright everyone, don't panic. We've reached more evolutions. But don't worry, as far as I know, there's no copy passes about these ones. Right? Pokemon fact number 196. Did you know that Espeon seems to be solar powered? So if people don't know, Eevee evolves into Espeon if it levels up with max friendship during the day. So there's always been a link between Espeon and the sun. But strangely, it took 18 years after its release for the games to mention any other kind of connection to the sun. We're told in Pokemon Ultra Moon that psychic powers build up in the gem on its forehead when it bathes in sunlight. I wonder how the competitive scene would change if Espeon had solar power as an ability. It turns out I was wrong about there not being any more copy pasta. Honestly, I should have expected that. Pokemon fact number 197. Did you know that Umbreon has poisonous sweat? Umbreon's a dark type, which in Pokemon usually means that they use underhanded, evil, or dishonorable tactics. So when you hear that it has poisonous sweat, you might think, huh, sounds a bit more like a poison type. Well, when it comes to Umbreon, it doesn't just sweat a bit of poison, it sprays the sweat into its opponent's eyes. Oh, and it's also known to attack its opponent's throat. Gamerfest has given me a content creator pass, so I'm gonna be in Dublin at the RDS on the 22nd and 23rd of October. Hey look, I'm as surprised as you are. Pokemon fact number 198. Did you know that Murkrow is absolutely hated by people? You see, there's a few reasons you might think Murkrow would be hated by people in the Pokemon world. They get into turf wars with Meowths. It lures trainers that chase it into mountain trails so they get lost. And they're even said to steal rings from women. That's right, specifically from women. But none of these reasons are why it's actually despised. It turns out that Murkrow is just seen as a symbol of bad luck. So because of ominous superstitions, people in the Pokemon world just don't like Murkrow. New Pokemon trailer. I'm not much of a Girafarig fan as it is, but what is this mutant? It's 10'6". But then again, it is a giraffe. Pokemon fact number 199. Did you know that Slowking is a genius, but with a major drawback? So Slowking's been blessed with enhanced intellect, on par with award-winning scientists. Basically, the poisons from a Shelter's bite have put its brain into maximum overdrive. Slowking is said to research every day to try and solve all the world's mysteries, and that it can also solve any problem presented to it. Well, besides the fact we're told that no one can understand what they're saying, and before I look in the comments, yes, I know about the Pokemon 2000 movie. It's a different canon. It also turns out that every time Slowking comes up with a new idea, it forgets it. I guess it's still a member of the Slowpoke family. Looks like there was extra new Pokemon revealed in the trailer yesterday. Here they are, hidden in the mini-map. Also, I've never liked Misdreavus. Pokemon fact number 200. Did you know that Misdreavus is an absolute menace? Yeah, so Misdreavus is a ghost type that stays alive from feeding on people's fear, which leads it to act like an absolute nuisance. The Pokédex says it likes playing mischievous tricks, such as screaming and pulling on people's hair just to see their reactions. And while it's said in early entries that it feeds on fear, Pokemon Sun tells us that it's actually consuming people's life energy. Also, here's a bonus. In the original Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, when you talk to Misdreavus, it says, "Would you like me to pull on your hair?" Ooh, ooh, Oni-chan. What's your favorite form of unknown? Let me know in the comments. Pokemon fact number 201. Did you know that unknown are pretty much useless by themselves? But many entries in the Pokédex mention that as soon as there's two or more, a strange power is said to emerge. All in all, the name Unknown really does fit because we know next to nothing about them. We know they look like ancient text, but we don't know if the letters came first or they did. Professor Laventon even pointed out that they look like writing from other lands, but apparently nobody took them seriously. Have you ever seen a female Wobbuffet? Those lips kinda got me acting up. Pokemon fact number 202. Did you know that Wobbuffet are surprisingly competitive? Wobbuffet's a bit of a strange Pokemon. It never attacks first, and it usually only retaliates after it's been attacked. And it gets weirder when two Wobbuffet meet. Some competition happens and it can get pretty extreme. Because they won't attack each other, competing Wobbuffet will instead test each other's endurance. And they do this by seeing which one can last the longest without food, which can of course lead to starvation. Farigiraf's ability Armor Tail stops the use of priority moves. Notice how it doesn't say priority attacks. If it really is just priority moves, using Protect would be useless. Pokemon fact number 203. Did you know that Girafarig's tail is pretty much the only interesting thing about it? Girafarig's tail has a brain of its own, but it's extremely small and isn't used for thinking. Instead, the tail keeps watch behind Girafarig 24 hours a day. A weird little quirk it has is that while Girafarig's main head eats, the tail also makes chewing and swallowing motions. It's a bit weird. And I don't know about you, but I prefer Girafarig's original design, back when it had two heads. It also works better with its palindrome name. You know, Pineco's type has always bugged me. Pokemon fact number 204. Did you know that Pineco really doesn't like being interrupted? So first off, I want to mention the weird way Pineco protects itself. It likes to make its shell thicker by adding layers of tree bark to itself. And the Pokédex tells us that elderly Pineco are ridiculously huge. But anyway, back to why it doesn't like being interrupted. Pineco doesn't move a lot, just kind of sits there glued to trees by its saliva, waiting for prey to just come along. One of its favorites to eat is Cutiefly, by the way. So given the fact it probably doesn't catch food very often, I can see why it'd be angry about getting disturbed while eating. But Pineco takes this very personally. Because if you so much as shake the tree it's in, it'll drop down to the ground and detonate without warning. There's 10 days until Gamerfest. Let me know in the comments if you're gonna be there. Or, be square. Pokemon fact number 205. Did you know that Forretress's insides have never been seen? I mean, don't ask me why you'd want to see them, but a good few entries in the Pokedex talk about how no one's been able to see their mysterious innards. In fact, its eyes are the only things you can see peering out of its shell. And Forretress does open its shell when it's catching prey, but it does that so quickly nobody's been able to see what it's hiding. Oh, and forget trying to sneak up on it, because it fires off fragments of its steel shell when anything gets close, like a claymore. Sure, you're thinking, oh, but I'm its trainer. It wouldn't do that to me. Well, yeah, that would be true. But it turns out that when it comes to Forretress, this is an uncontrollable reflex. We better not get another generation without a Dunsparce evolution. Even Girafarig got one. Pokemon fact number 206. Did you know that Dunsparce used to soar through the skies in ancient times? Nowadays, poor Dunsparce can only hover with its tiny wings. But in Pokemon Sword, we're told that some Poke scientists think that Dunsparce used to be fully capable of flight in the past. Now, what's interesting about this is that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have a lot of past and future themes. So all I'm saying is it would be a great time to introduce an ancient evolution of Dunsparce. Exactly like Yanmega, Mamoswine, Tangrowth. If Dunsparce did get an evolution, comment below what type you'd like to see it have. I mean, it's about time, right? I swear, the new Pokemon Bellibolt was revealed. It's the gym leader Iono's partner Pokemon. She's a streamer and an influencer, and seems to have annoyed a lot of Pokemon creators, which I find pretty funny. Pokemon fact number 207. Did you know that Gligar is a little demon? So it's a flying scorpion, which is bad enough, but the way Gligar attacks things is horrifying. I'll try paint a bit of a picture. So you're getting home late, it's dark. It's the Pokemon world, so you're already probably terrified that you're about to be murdered by any one of the hundreds of mythical creatures. When all of a sudden, and without a sound, you've got a scorpion monster grasping on your head, stabbing you in the face repeatedly with a poison barb. So to break that down a bit, Gligar is known to be completely silent when it flies, which benefits it greatly for sneak attacks, where it goes out of its way to target its enemy's face. It uses those pincers to clamp down, so it can inject their foes with poison from their massive stinger. And remember, it also evolves. Hey, show this to all the people who think that 1 billion lions would beat all the Pokemon. Pokemon fact number 208. Did you know that Steelix is all you would need to defeat 1 billion lions? So let's go through all the reasons why Steelix would win. Steelix lives at a depth of about 1 kilometer, or 0.6 of a mile, underground. So no amount of dogpiling, or I guess lion piling, is going to crush or impede a Steelix, especially considering that it can see in the dark and chew its way through boulders as it tunnels. So you can be pretty sure its insides are just as durable. Due to being tempered underground, its body is harder than diamond. It could just sit there. The lions would never be able to kill it. And before anyone starts, the game mechanics aren't the rules here. PP and HP aren't involved. This is as if Pokemon were real animals based on their entries. Otherwise, it makes no sense, because going by the game mechanics, a fleet of 1,000 newborn babies could defeat a tank. 1.1 million views in a day, and people wonder why I bring up the lion debate. Pokemon fact number 209. Did you know that Snubbull is all bark, no bite? Snubbull might look scary and intimidating, but the Pokedex lets us know that it's actually kind, caring, and a little bit playful, as well as a little cowardly. Its growls make people uneasy, and its face sends small Pokemon scurrying away in terror. But Snubbull always seems a little sad when Pokemon run away. Oh, and to make that even sadder, Pokemon Ultra Moon tells us that when it plays with other puppy Pokemon, it can end up getting bullied, which is probably part of the reason why Granbull is actually known to be even more timid than Snubbull. Looking at Granbull's stats, you could double its speed, and it would probably still not get used. Pokemon fact number 210. Did you know that Granbull usually avoids conflict? A lot like its previous evolution, Snubbull, Granbull is, a little bit of a coward. But don't get it twisted, it's still got some major weaponry. Its lower jaw and fangs are so large, it needs to keep its head tilted back for balance. Still, Granbull is very easily spooked and doesn't really care for disputes, so they rarely get a chance to show just how strong they really are. If a Granbull does become enraged, it'll strike indiscriminately with its huge fangs, which should scare you, because it can use pretty much any biting move you can think of. Crunch, Ice Fang, Thunder Fang, Fire Fang. If only it had the ability Strong Jaw. Or just better stats. In Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, when Qwilfish is hurt, it says, "I'm sagging. I can't even inflate myself anymore." Same here. Pokemon fact number 211. Did you know that Qwilfish is a really bad swimmer? Yeah, so you'd think a literal fish Pokemon would be good at swimming. But due to Qwilfish being so dummy thick, it finds swimming somewhat challenging. Qwilfish guzzles down 2.6 gallons of water, which is why it's so plump. So it has the water pressure required to fire out its toxic spines. But it seems like it's not limited to just a measly 2.6 gallons. As we're told in Pokemon Crystal, that when faced with an opponent larger than Qwilfish, it swallows up as much water as it can to match the opponent's size. I know this is a bit off topic, but who do you think would win in a fight? Elsa from Frozen or Shin Godzilla? Pokemon fact number 212. Did you know that Scizor is at a constant risk of melting? Pretty funny since it's 4 times weak to fire. But heat truly is Scizor's greatest weakness. You might think those wings are used for zipping around at high speeds, but they're actually used to constantly regulate its body temperature. Because according to Pokemon Sun, Scizor's metal body would become too hot and melt in the heat of battle. So knowing this, it would be pretty irresponsible to somehow, I don't know, increase the amount of energy and heat produced by its body. This one's gonna be a mouthful. Pokemon fact number 213. Did you know that Shuckle can deal the most damage out of any Pokemon? By itself, Shuckle has some of the lowest offensive stats we've ever seen. But if you go through a bit of setup, it deals the most damage of all Pokemon. It involves using a Shuckle from Gen 3, transferring it to Gen 6, leveling it up to level 100, being in a triple battle, have it hold a metronome, boosting its attack with multiple different moves, using power tricks, skill swapping its ability to pure power, converting it to ice type, having 2 partners with the ability Flower Gift. While the weather is sunny, have it no mimic so it can use Ice Ball, and you need to have it land 4 times in a row to build the move's power, and on the 5th attack you have to hit a level 1 Wybat with minimum debuff defenses that's also under the effects of Forest's Curse, which ends up dealing 721,899,685 damage as a critical hit. The setup for this is so convoluted, I've probably missed something. Everyone remember when Heracross used to constantly suck on Bulbasaur? Yeah, I bet you do, little freaks. Pokemon fact number 214. Did you know that Heracross could effortlessly throw an elephant? Heracross, besides of course being one of the best Pokemon, is also incredibly strong. A few entries mention that this blue beetle can lift 100 times its own weight, with hardly any effort at all. So throwing around a real-world elephant would be a pretty simple task. Never mind the fact that if Heracross Mega evolves, it can then lift 500 times its own weight. And unlike most Mega evolutions, it's not in constant writhing agony. The worst thing that happens to Heracross is it just has some sore muscles when it's done. Why are you looking at me like that, huh? What are you expecting, a fact? Fact, Chan. Pokemon fact number 215. Did you know that Sneasels and Alola can shatter their claws? Sneasel's an extremely cunning, but absolutely brutal Pokemon. It steals Pokemon eggs, and is on record for being so vicious that it will not stop attacking its foe until it's incapable of moving. In Alola, they're equally as violent. And in Ultramoon, we're told that they will attack Alolan Sandshrews. So it might be a bit of karma that these Sandshrews have such good defensive armor that Sneasel's claws tend to snap right off. I imagine most of you know what happens in nature when an animal loses its main way of defending itself, right? It's facts like this one that make me question the intentions behind some of these entries. Pokemon fact number 216. Did you know that Teddiursa paws all taste unique? So for some reason in Gen 4, the Pokedex tells us this interesting little tidbit about Teddiursa. It lets honey soak into its paws so it can lick them all the time. Oh, and every set of paws tastes unique. Now, I don't know about you, but I've got a question. What was the process for testing this? And actually, who was the first person in the Pokemon world to not only go, hey, give me a suck of that bear paw, huh? But to then also go, hey, give me a suck of another paw. Different bear this time. What's up, gamers? It's me, man in his late 20s who makes Pokemon videos. And it's time for another one. Pokemon fact number 217. Did you know that Ursaring would make the ultimate sniffer dog? Bear. Well, it's not crazy that a bear Pokemon happens to have a good sense of smell. What is interesting about it is that we're told that Ursaring has the ability to distinguish any aroma. So why does that matter? Well, besides being able to instantly recognize anything in the vicinity by smell alone, there would also be no way to throw an Ursaring off of your scent. Like if someone was trying to hunt you down, or let's say not subscribing to me. Just bringing that up as a crazy example. You know, there's no reason or anything. Also, I hope people like the way I have the patron credits now. Instead of just scrolling them up the middle of the screen, I decided to actually put some effort in. Hey, we got a new Pokemon revealed. No idea what it's called, but it's a ghost dog, and it seems to drain your life if you play with it. Hey, look, I know that feeling. Pokemon fact number 218. Did you know that Slugma has to keep moving or it faints? So Slugma doesn't have any blood in its circulatory system. It just has liquid hot magma. This gets pumped around Slugma's body, keeping it alive, so long as it keeps moving. If Slugma decides to stop, its skin will immediately start to cool. If it stayed still long enough, it would likely never move again, which would be a shame because then it couldn't evolve. Speaking of which, tomorrow we're gonna have Macargo. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about when it comes to Macargo. This video will probably get 2 reactions. 1, a pitchfork-wielding mob in the comments, or 2, normal people. Pokemon fact number 219. Did you know that Magcargo isn't as hot as you think? Now just hold on, let me clarify. The Pokedex specifically says that 18,000 degrees is Magcargo's body temperature, not necessarily its surface temperature. And I think that allows for another factor to be involved. Thermal transmittance. That's the rate at which heat will transfer through a material, usually represented with a U value. Essentially, the better a material is at stopping heat from escaping, the higher the U value. So whatever fictional material makes up Magcargo's body has such a high U value that it insulates most of the intense heat. This would explain why it can have such a high internal temperature of 18,000 degrees, and why it likely has a surface temperature closer to a much more manageable 2,200 degrees. So Legends Arceus gave us a Pokemon game set roughly in the Meiji Restoration period. What time in history would you like to see a Pokemon game set in? Personally, I'd like to see Unova set in the Wild West. Pokemon fact number 220. Did you know that Swinub can uncover hot springs by smell alone? Now, when I read this, I was extremely confused. Swinub can root out mushrooms, berries, and even hot springs by using its sense of smell. Now, the mushrooms and berries, sure, they make sense, but hot springs? So it's probably because I'm from Ireland, but we don't have hot springs here. So I didn't know that they usually contain sulfur, which after more research, I learned that apparently sulfur smells like eggy farts. I'll have to check that out when I move to Japan at the end of the year. Conveniently, not only the home of Pokemon, but also world famous hot springs. Turns out I've been saying Piloswine wrong all these years. I've been saying Piloswine, which I'm just now realizing sounds more like a kink. Pokemon fact number 221. Did you know that Piloswine has tusks made of ice? So I had no clue that the tusks we see on our piggy Piloswine here are actually made out of pure ice. I suppose I just assumed it was ivory. It never even registered with me, which is weird because over the years we've gotten quite a few entries where the Pokedex tells us that not only are they made out of ice, but these bad boys get longer and thicker when it snows. Which begs the question, do they melt in hot temperatures, or are they more like the bizarre item Never Melt Ice, which probably should have just been called permafrost? If anyone knows what inspired this fact, then please let me know. Pokemon fact number 222. Did you know that Corsola promotes childbirth? So we get a pretty interesting piece of information from Pokemon Sword. Those coral branches from Corsola's head break off sometimes, and particularly beautiful pieces of coral are kept and are worn as charms to promote safe childbirth. Now, I tried to look up a correlation between coral and childbirth, but I couldn't seem to find one. So let me know if this is referencing something from the real world, like a superstition or a ritual from somewhere, because I don't know what it could be. Also, hello, that Shun. Told you I'd put you in the video. A lot of people seem confused why Remoraid, a fish, evolves into Octillery, an octopus. Well, let me try to explain. Pokemon fact number 223. Did you know that Remoraid is known as the sniper of the seas? Yes, so Remoraid can blast jets of water out of its mouth like a sniper rifle. It can pull off sweet MLG no-scopes from up to 300 feet away, taking down flying prey and shooting Burmese out of trees. And this is the key to solving the confusion around why a fish evolves into an octopus. The evolution isn't focused on the animal part. It's actually showing a water gun turning into a water cannon. Or, I guess, bazooka. They just happen to choose unrelated sea creatures. Octillery has an instinct to bury itself inside of holes. Same. Pokemon fact number 224. Did you know that Octillery used to look a lot more like a tank? Back in the 1997 Space World demo, we were able to see a much more military-style Octillery, sporting what looks like a helmet and armor plating. Obviously, they haven't stuck with the design, but it seems like Octillery wasn't done serving in the line of duty. Because in Galar, Octillery is the Fire Brigade mascot. And you know what? The design looks eerily similar to that Space World demo. Also, there's been a massive achievement for the channel. 69,000 followers. In fact, YouTube's coming up on 6.9 thousand subscribers, so doubly nice. Look, I know that Delibird makes more sense than Delibird, but I just prefer saying Delibird. Pokemon fact number 225. Did you know that Delibird's present sack is actually its tail? We learned this from the Pokedex, when we're told that Delibird stores a bunch of food in its sack-like tail, and it doesn't mind sharing that food with people and Pokemon. The Pokedex even mentions someone making it to the top of Mount Everest after receiving help from a Delibird. They later changed the entry to say the peak of the world's highest mountain, but you know, it's still cool, right? Look, up in the sky. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's just Mantine. Pokemon fact number 226. Did you know that Mantine is commonly mistaken for a bird? Good old Professor Laventon tells us in Legends Arceus that Mantine is often misidentified as a bird Pokemon. How? Well, it turns out that not only does it gracefully swim in the seas, but Mantine can build up so much speed it flies out of the water and can glide for over 300 feet. I mean, you've got to explain why it's water flying somehow, right? Also, we're about 16 days from the release of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, so I'm going to do a full 24-hour live stream when the game's released on the 18th of November at 11 a.m. GMT. I got my visa for Japan today, so at the beginning of next year, you're all going to be seeing a lot more weeb content. Pokemon fact number 227. Did you know that Skarmory chicks live in constant torture to become strong? So Skarmories like to make their nests in bramble bushes, which doesn't really bother them because of their hard metal feathers. But baby Skarmory aren't born like that. Instead, the wings of Skarmory chicks become harder over time, as they are constantly scratched by thorns. So with all of this brutal information, you could say that Skarmory is a pretty metal Pokemon. I'm trying to lose weight, and there's nothing like telling several thousand people online to make me feel like I have to stick to it. Right now, I'm 227 pounds, which means I'm slightly heavier than Rampardos, a dinosaur made out of rocks. Pokemon fact number 228. Did you know that Houndour isn't even native to Johto? So yeah, Houndour being a Gen 2 Pokemon should probably be found in Johto, but it was actually found in Kanto in the Gold, Silver, and Crystal games. And given that Houndour isn't present in Kanto in Gen 1, we have to assume that one of the other regions besides Kanto and Johto are where it's truly from. Maybe one day we'll get a regional variant of the original Houndour. Or maybe it was just bad planning.
24-hour Pokemon Violet live stream, November 18th, 11 a.m. GMT.
Pokemon fact number 229. Did you know that Houndoom seems more like a poison type than a dark type? This is probably related to the fact that the Dark type was newly introduced in Generation 2, and possibly changed a lot of Pokemon from Poison to Dark types, like Umbreon. Houndoom's entries almost entirely focus on the toxins and poisons in its body. Houndoom mixes its flames with poisons to produce a flame that, if it hits you, hurts forever. Also, I'm going live now, playing New Game plus God of War. I'm getting more used to streaming for my big Pokemon stream. So for some reason, Houndoom didn't get a lot of views. Care to explain, algorithm? Yeah, didn't think so. Pokemon fact number 230. Did you know that Kingdra creates whirlpools by yawning? So based on the Pokedex entries, Kingdra is a horrifyingly powerful creature, controlling the elements themselves through completely mundane things. Kingdra not only creates whirlpools when it yawns, but also just whenever it moves. When it wakes up, it also generates tornadoes. Oh, and we're also told that if Kingdra ever meets a Dragonite, a fierce battle ensues. So I guess for some reason there's big beef between Kingdras and Dragonites. Also, be sure to join my Discord if you want to be involved in some community game nights. Would you rather eat a Chansey egg or drink some Miltank milk? Comment below and try not to get too weird with it. Pokemon fact number 231. Did you know that Phanpy could send you flying? Standing at about 1 foot tall and weighing in at 73.9 pounds, this little baby elephant thing is strong enough to carry an adult human on its back. That's an incredible amount of strength. Phanpy swings its snout around playfully, but because of its power, that becomes extremely dangerous. Like a bodybuilder swinging around a baseball bat made out of meat. Also, 18th of November, 24-hour Pokemon Violet livestream. Be there or be busy, probably. Are you a fan of Donphan? It took me way too long to think of this intro. Pokemon fact number 232. Did you know that Donphan could destroy your house? So yeah, Donphan's an absolute monster in terms of physical strength. Being able to pull a dump truck. They're fans of curling up into balls and tackling things. Kinda like Sonic. Donphan's hide is rock hard and ordinary attacks won't leave a scratch. So it's pretty frightening that the Pokedex tells us that a Donphan just using tackle is enough to blow apart a house. Good thing they seem to be pretty good-natured. Instead of destroying houses, they'll usually use their strength to help clear rocks and mudslides that block mountain trails. Porygon 2 has never appeared in the anime, likely because of the incident. So all I have to say is justice for Porygon. Pokemon fact number 233. Did you know that Porygon 2 was created for interstellar exploration? Porygon 2 was created by humans as an upgrade for Porygon. It was intended to work in space and even explore other planets. Also, eat your heart out, Skynet, because it even has artificial intelligence that lets it learn new gestures and emotions by itself. But ultimately, Porygon 2 is a failure, because even though it won't perish in the vacuum of space, it can't fly or move around well in zero gravity. So let's all celebrate Porygon 2, the champion of failures. You know, I didn't really expect Stantler to be one of the Pokemon with Eldritch Horror powers. Pokemon fact number 234. Did you know that Stantler's antlers distort reality? The Pokedex entries for Stantler let us in on a little secret. Those antlers subtly change the flow of air to create a strange space where reality itself is distorted. Staring into its antlers causes people to lose control of their senses, to the point that they won't be able to stand. Staring at them can also give an odd sensation, as if you're being drawn into the center of the antlers. So, you know, given all this information, how did it ever make sense that Stantler was just a normal type? I feel extremely sick today. So instead of me coming up with the intro, what kind of intro would you do if you were in charge? And yes, I'll probably farm ideas from this, but I feel sick, so let's call it even, right? Pokemon fact number 235. Did you know that Smeargle has a built-in mood detector? If you had a Smeargle and wanted to know how it was feeling at any given moment, just have a glance at its tail. Because depending on the strength of Smeargle's emotions, the intensity of the color on its tail will change. So a bored Smeargle might have a pale mint tip, or an incredibly angry Smeargle could be painting with a vivid neon green. Regardless, Smeargle fanatics in the Pokemon world are said to pay big money for certain Smeargle symbols. What's your favorite member of the Hitmon family? Fight it out in the comments, because fighting type. Pokemon fact number 236. Did you know that Tyrogue's evolution will change depending on its stats? Tyrogue has one of my favorite evolution methods in the entire games, where depending on whether its attack or defense is higher, it'll evolve into completely different Pokemon. If you've got a high attack stat Tyrogue, it'll evolve into the stretchy-legged Hitmonlee. Higher defense and you'll get piston-punching Hitmonchan. But if your Tyrogue has the perfect balance between offense and defense, completely even attack and defense stats, it'll evolve into the Capoeira Master Hitmontop. Also, be cool. Join my Discord. There'll be community battles and trading for the new games. Do you think that a regional variant of Hitmontop would be a Hitmonbottom? Pokemon fact number 237. Did you know that Hitmontop can spin so fast while fighting that it can bore into the ground? Yes, Hitmontop literally fights like a spinning top, and that can apparently lead to it digging into the ground like a drill. Speaking of drilling, I'm sorry, but Hitmontop has one of the most innuendo-filled entries I've ever read. If you become enchanted by its smooth and elegant dance-like kicks, you may get drilled hard. Also, be sure to check out when I go live for 24 hours on the 18th of November. I'm going to be playing Pokemon Violet like crazy. I really disliked learning the information for this fact, so please watch it to make it worthwhile. Pokemon fact number 238. Did you know that Smoochum does a disturbing amount of stuff with its lips? Smoochum, instead of touching things with its hands, will examine things with its lips, which are the most sensitive part of its body. You might think that would lead to a lot of dirt and stuff getting on its mouth. Oh, but don't worry, it diligently licks all the dirt off. Smoochum will bathe immediately if its face even gets slightly dirty, but if its body gets dirty, it doesn't seem to care. And something I really didn't want to know, but now you'll know too, Smoochum's lips are kept moist by its daily application of tree sap, like a weird lip balm. A few facts ago, I mentioned I was trying to lose weight since I weighed the same as a 227-pound big stone dinosaur. Well, now I'm 219 pounds, which is the same weight as a Bergmite, another stone-based creature. Pokemon fact number 239. Did you know that Elekid is like a little electric child? Raising an Elekid seems like a full-time job. For example, if you let it touch any metal at all, it'll accidentally discharge all of its built-up electricity. When it hears the crash of thunder, Elekid's mood improves. So it's recommended that you record the sound of thunder and play it whenever Elekid is feeling down. The Pokédex also mentions that electrical outlets serve as its baby bottle, where it'll suck down electricity. Actually, that's a pretty big difference between real babies and Elekid. Maybe don't let your kids feed from electrical outlets. But hey, I'm not a parent. What do I know? Here's a top tip for the current economy. You don't have to worry about paying back your mortgage if you can't get one in the first place. Ah? Modern solutions, right? Pokemon fact number 240. Did you know that Magby can suffer from colds? Now, this might be more of a fault with the English language, but yes, Magby can catch colds. When it does, flames will dribble out of its nose and mouth. And watch out if it sneezes, because this little lumpy-headed weirdo can pump out 1,100-degree heat. The flames will be bright yellow if it's a healthy Magby, but if it's sick, the flames will be mixed with billowing black smoke. A good way to help the Magby recover is to just dip it in some magma, like relaxing in a hot spring. So just get access to some magma. You know, that easily available corner store magma. Quick, comment Milky's down below or Whitney's Miltank will visit you at 3 a.m. Why would I write this? Pokemon fact number 241. Did you know that Miltank has a Pokédex entry that throws some major sass? The entry comes from Gen 7, practically the king of disturbing Pokédex entries. I mean, besides Mega Evolution, that is. In Pokemon Sun, we're told that Miltank's milk is high in calories and packed with nutrients. Therefore, if you drink too much of it, you may wind up with a body like Miltank's. I don't know which hits harder, the shade from this entry or Miltank's rollout. You like that? That's a little something for the Gen 2 fans. Also, tomorrow I'm playing 24 hours of Pokemon Violet, 11 a.m. GMT. Remember when the Pokemon series had a Stoutland heartbreakingly die of old age? Oh, the Stoutland isn't relevant to the fact, but the depression from the episode is. Pokemon fact number 242. Did you know that Blissey will hunt you down if you're depressed? So Blissy's fluffy coat of fur helps it detect sadness. And if it does sense any sadness, it'll rush over to the person, however far they may be, to give them one of its eggs. Now this however far they may be line implies that Blissey would hunt you down from anywhere in the world, like an omniscient Danny DeVito. So quite a few choices for depressed people in the Pokemon world. You could be healed by a Blissey or hunted down by a Haunter, and let's not forget Hatterene in 616 episodes. By the way, right now I'm in the middle of playing Pokemon Violet for 24 hours. I'd be about 8 hours in at this point. You can always ask in the comments what platform it's on. So I finished my big 24-hour Pokemon Violet event, and after I was done, the video didn't save. So that's 24 hours of footage that's just completely gone. Pokemon fact number 243. Did you know that Raikou was basically created by Ho-Oh? Now, a lot of Pokemon fans might already know this, but still, in the past, the Brass Tower in Johto was struck by lightning and was set on fire until rain put it out. 3 unnamed Pokemon died in this fire, and then Ho-Oh turned up, revived them, and they became Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. But what people like to debate about is what were the 3 Pokemon that perished in the first place? Were they still just Raikou, Entei, and Suicune? Or were they something else? Like, let's say, a Jolteon, Flareon, and Vaporeon? Entei, more like Hentei. Pokemon fact number 244. Did you know that Entei would cause constant volcanic eruptions? So this is probably another reason why the lions wouldn't stand a goddamn chance. But yeah, it said whenever Entei barks, it causes a volcano to erupt. Now, depending on whether that means existing volcanoes or new volcanoes, we get an interesting situation. Entei are also said to be born when a new volcano appears, so potentially we end up with a feedback loop from hell. Entei barks, a new volcano emerges, so a new Entei is born. Now both Enteis bark, 2 volcanoes emerge, there's 4 Enteis now. They bark, and so on. If we start with 1 Entei, and we repeat this process just 30 times, well, before anything else, the Earth would be inhospitable, but we would also have slightly more than 1 billion Entei. Hey, if anyone needs any of the new starters, hop in while I'm playing Violet and I can probably trade you whatever you need. Pokemon fact number 245. Did you know that Suicune would be the most useful of the 3 legendary beasts? Well, to be fair, if you called Volcanic Armageddon useful, you'd probably pick Entei. But Suicune has an invaluable ability. Suicune has the power to instantly purify water. Doesn't matter how filthy, dirty, or oil-filled the water is, Suicune would turn it into perfect, clean water. And honestly, that's probably needed. With the amount of Pokemon like Muck, Grimer, Garbodor, Suicune is probably the one saving grace, sporadically purifying water reserves across the Pokemon world. Is anyone else getting absolutely stomped in these Terra Raid battles? I've never struggled so hard against a goddamn Greedent. Well, I mean, except for that one time. Pokemon fact number 246. Did you know that Larvitar has to eat a mountain worth of soil to evolve? Now, I think people sleep on how incredibly insane this entry is, and probably stands to tell you how rare a Tyranitar or even a Pupitar would be in the Pokemon world. But for Larvitar to eat a mountain's worth of soil, forgetting about the physical logistics of it, that would easily be billions of pounds of soil, and the Pokedex specifies a large mountain. If we even entertain the fact that Larvitar might have to eat something the size of, say, Mount Everest, that would mean it needs to eat around 350 trillion pounds of soil. Would people be interested in some shiny Pokemon giveaways? If so, you can let me know in the comments. Pokemon fact number 247. Did you know that Pupitar is easily one of the most powerful Pokemon? I didn't realize Pupitar was as powerful as it is. For example, it's filled with so much energy, it just can't sit still. So it ejects compressed gas to launch itself around like a rocket, which becomes pretty intimidating when you consider it's as hard as bedrock. Rest in peace, Steve. And can withstand impacts with solid steel. But probably the most insane part of its Pokedex information is that all of its thrashing around is enough to topple mountains. Pupitar's out here keeping up with Dragon Ball. And please, I'm not saying Pupitar can defeat Goku. I know better than to make that kind of statement. Which do you think would win? All of the Pokemon or your mental health? Pokemon fact number 248. Did you know that Tyranitar is described as a mobile disaster? I don't think I can overstate just how powerful Tyranitar is. In just one of its mighty hands, it has the power to make the ground shake and mountains crumble. I mean, I think the fact it looks like Godzilla isn't really a coincidence. Tyranitar brings down mountains just to make its nest. And if it rampages, it knocks down even more entire mountains and buries rivers to the point that maps need to be redrawn after it's done. Look, Lugia should have been part water type. It just suits better. Pokemon fact number 249. Did you know that Lugia hides away because it's too strong? So Lugia is so devastatingly powerful that even doing the most basic things like flapping its wings have nightmarish consequences for the world. Not only is a light fluttering enough to annihilate people's houses, but if Lugia were to actually fully flap its wings, it just starts a 40-day-long storm. And that's just from one flap. But thankfully, Lugia seems intelligent enough to understand its insane power, so it voluntarily exiles itself to live in the deepest trenches of the sea. And I will always stick by the opinion that Lugia should have been water psychic type, with levitate as its ability because, you know, it does fly. Hey, tomorrow's the final Pokemon fact for Generation 2. Let me know in the comments if you had a favorite. Pokemon fact number 250. Did you know that Ho-Oh has likely caused Ash Ketchum to be blessed with eternal happiness? That's right, remember all the way back to the first episode of the anime? Ash saw Ho-Oh flying away in the sky. Well, firstly, the Pokedex tells us that it will only reveal itself to pure-hearted trainers. But more importantly, those who see Ho-Oh are promised eternal happiness. Given that recently Ash became the champion of champions, that's looking to be true. Now let's just hope Ash doesn't show up to the next region struggling against basic everyday Pokemon. Well, that would never happen, right? This is the final fact from Generation 2. So that's 2 generations down, 7 more to go. Pokemon fact number 251. Did you know that Celebi is from the future? So as people might know, Celebi has the power to travel through time. But what's strange is that the Pokedex specifically states that it comes from the future. Given Celebi's link to nature and being a forest guardian, it seems strange that it comes from forward in time instead of in the past. Even weirder is that we're told that when Celebi disappears deep into a forest, it's leaving behind an egg that it brought from the future. What does that mean? Why an egg from the future? Is it its own egg? Another egg? Who knows? Celebi's also said to only appear during times of peace. So why did it leave the future in the first place? Maybe the future doesn't have any forests or organic life left because of a large conflict. So Celebi's protecting the last natural Pokemon egg. And if you want to binge watch the full Gen 2 fact compilation, the video is going to be going up right now.